Question number 1, are you at least 18 years old?
Yes, I'm at least 18.
And what pronoun do you go by?
He, him.
Oh, I see what happened. My camera fell. Okay, and are you a Christian?
Yes, I'm a Christian.
Alrighty then. I'm Dalton, the Bible guy. Why should I be a Christian?
Yeah, because there's evidence in favor of the Christian God existing.
All right.
I think the evidence, the likelihood is enough to rationally compel an agent, such that they should believe in this being.
Go ahead,
I
Sticks.
can present the evidence on the table, and we can engage in a discussion about it if you'd like.
Yeah, you're going to be talking to Sticks for this conversation. Sticks, go ahead.
Oh, I came to specifically want to go in you.
Well,
I'm not interested in having Sticks.
No. You'll talk to Sticks. Why? Do you not want to talk to someone who's philosophically competent?
Well, I can have a discussion with Sticks on fine-tuning. That's fine. We can talk about that.
Sticks, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right. Go ahead and present your argument to Sticks.
Yeah, well, it's just the standard Bayesian formulation of fine-tuning, and then we're going to use like the entailment rule of probability to say that this would also be evidence in favor of the Christian God. But besides that, I was just curious on if you had a response to, like, entailment rule aside, I was curious on if you had a response to just the standard version of fine-tuning.
Yeah, so I think you're surely familiar with Detroiter's type of objection. I think we can run through it if you want. I'm not sure if this, audience is particularly interested in hearing it, but I mean, if you want to run through the exercise, we can. I take it to be the case that on bare design, it doesn't generate any sort of predictive power over fine-tuning data, and I don't think that the prior probability of a bare design hypothesis exceeds that of the non-design hypothesis, and so if it's the case that the priors on the design hypothesis are less than or equal to the prior on the non-design hypothesis, and that on the bare design hypothesis, it's not raising the likelihood of seeing fine-tuning data over that of the non-design hypothesis. I don't think the posterior on a more specific hypothesis like Christianity or Christian theism allows us to get to a posterior that would rationalize belief in that theism based on that type of data update.
Yeah, so I think this type of objection fails just in virtue of like the entailment rule and the law of total probability. So if H entails F, then any evidence for H is evidence for F. The type of argument that I'm levying where theism has the further stipulation of axiological motivation, that's going to entail bare theism.
May I ask a question? Are we able to say this? And remember, we have 145 people on TikTok and 84 people on YouTube. Are we able to maybe break down these terms into something that a broader audience might be able to understand?
Yeah, because I'm mentally checked out. I have not been listening.
I think I just want to say one thing, and I think it's probably best we put a tie on this conversation. I think you and I both know where this conversation is going to go. I don't think this is maybe the stage for this type of discussion. It's not really like people here, I'm sure, are interested in philosophy and philosophical discourse like of this nature. I just don't think that maybe it's going to be interesting to the audience, and I don't think it's any of us conceding to either of us. I just want to say
I don't know that it's not interesting. It's just it's very difficult to follow along with niche terminology, and which is what is the primary focus of this conversation. So is there a way to maybe break it down? Because I'm not this level of philosophically competent. The host isn't, and a lot of people,
That was kind of one of my words.
We could cash out some terms and maybe take this to its natural ends. I just want to say, okay, I think what you had just said there, Cap, about an entailment of the view, just entails theism, right? Or like bare theism. And this sort of entailment allows for the kind of predictive power over fine-tuned data. I think axiarchism is a perfectly reasonable response that if you're going to just kind of get to bare design for free based on the fine-tuned data and get that that novel predictive power over it, I could just say that the universe has some sort of disposition, right, for the fine-tuning data as well. I just don't see.
Yeah, well then that's where I think we should argue for a restricted version of the Bayesian likelihood principle, where there's this kind of non-ad hocness restriction, where you want to say you only get the confirmation given that both hypotheses aren't ad hoc. I think this is a good type of restriction for the likelihood principle, just because it seems like you don't want ad hoc hypotheses, right? But also, it seems like here's a good. I'm sorry, I hate to break you. You can explain
ad hoc and maybe and then say like you can do these things, and I think this conversation can still be had as a learning moment to us. Like, I know what ad hoc means, right? And like just say that in plain terms. That is what I'm trying to describe to y'all.
Yeah, so by ad hoc, for the people in the audience who may not be able to understand, we're talking about whether or not your hypothesis is kind of like made, like your theory is made to fit the evidence, where you're kind of allowed to add these type of details in. And obviously, then it seems like the likelihood would be, like, it's just trivial that you're kind of building the evidence into your hypothesis, right?
So, yeah, but I take it that you're kind of doing something similar.
That was perfect, by the way, sorry.
I take it that it's doing something similar with theism, right? Because if we look at the modal scope, like the possibilities to create some sort of universe for some particular goal, I think it could create any universe to achieve the goals that we're kind of acquainted with within like theism, right? So if we're talking about things like, I don't know, maybe it wants a relationship with us or wants us to worship, something like that, right? Well, God could create a world in which the strong and weak nuclear force are far different, and the cosmological constant is far different in ways that like perhaps only electrons floating in space have like Cartesian souls attached to them, right? This is possible under theism, right? So I don't think that this type of fine-tuning has any predictive power over, or I don't think it's any evidence toward theism any more than like a non-design hypothesis, just given the vast possibility space.
Yeah, so there's a couple of things to say about this. I think then we would have to have a conversation about if the epistemic probability space is the kind of space where it's kind of metaphysically weighty in this sense. I'm unfamiliar on whether or not we have reasons to believe this, but I think if that were the case, then it seems like what you're talking about, where God kind of has this type of, he could, in theory, produce a world where there's like this type of coarse tuning, or there's this type of idea where they're like that, the constants are vastly different and we have life. It seems like even if that were true, which I don't have reason to grant that in favor of, like, I'm skeptical in the claim that the epistemic probability space isn't like metaphysically weighty. Like the ideas that we have of the epistemic, the possible constant isn't weighty in the sense that we have a good idea of like the metaphysical space.
We're doing it again. Sorry, I'm really trying to get, because otherwise we're going to drop numbers. We're not going to have future guests. It's really kind of about the live. We're using terms that are like way over. Epistemic is like how we get to truth. Like you can say the term, and then like in papers, like academic papers, at least in my field, we generally will put commas after something, explain what we mean by that, and then move on. And so it's not like we can't use the terminology to appeal to a broader sense in the audience, but sometimes we can use like that, because I'm very, like, if we lose the audience, then we lose the FYP, and then this live has no future.
Yeah, it's like there's no point in communicating with someone if you can't effectively communicate with them. Like if the other person that you're talking to doesn't know what the hell you're talking about, then there's no point in having the conversation, right?
Right. Okay, so to be clear, the conversation here is between me and Sticks. It's
not.
It's
well,
not.
If it was a DM, if this was a DM or like a Zoom call between you and Sticks, I would understand. But there are hundreds of people watching right now who are clawing their eyes out.
Okay, well, it seems like for people who have these type of philosophical concepts, obviously it's going to be kind of difficult to break them down. But even besides that point, right? It doesn't seem like we're losing viewers, right? I think for a more efficient convo with Sticks, it would be.
I've had several people already tell me that they're leaving.
And not only this, they know that Dalton's, we're dropping down. We've dropped down by like 30 people in the YouTube chat alone. The YouTube chat doesn't drop as quickly, but there's a reason for this, because they know Dalton will eventually shut this down. But if you let it go on too long, but I'm trying to give you an opportunity to teach people about a broader like subject. If you want to convince people, and that's the goal, then you should be able to say this in ways that they can understand. I've had to do this with the field that I'm in and have to learn how to do it. It is difficult. I applaud you for any effort that you have, and I'm not saying you have to be perfect about it, but you're not the only person in this conversation. This is a live stream, not a private conversation like Dalton had said.
Yeah, so to be clear, just to kind of respond to what you said, it seems like, because it's not like I'm being bad faith, right? Like, I think even the argument that I'm invoking in particular here,
but I don't understand anything. I don't understand anything you're saying to me. So what's the point?
I wasn't talking to you. Again,
does my audience understand anything you're saying?
I'm not interested in if the audience understands. I'm interested in having a conversation about
This isn't a Zoom. This isn't a Zoom call. This is not a Zoom call. This is not a.
Maybe-
if you want
maybe-
to have the conversation with Sticks
But
and
it's
just
not even
Sticks,
like I'm
you can have.
overusing jargon.
Yes, you are. You are.
These are the ways that the terms are used in the literature. Like if you just read on it.
I'm sorry.
Right.
I'm not a philosopher.
Like if you read for
and
like 5
neither.
seconds.
Okay, stop. The reason I don't use technical jargon when talking about biblical scholarship is because I want the audience. This is about education for the audience, not just about having the conversation between two peoples. If my audience doesn't understand what's being said, then I don't want the conversation to be had. If you cannot explain it simply, you simply do not understand it.
Maybe
That's
I
not
can
fair.
bridge, okay. Obviously, the contentions I've been kind of levying here is that the fine-tuning data isn't evidence for theism over like a non-design hypothesis. That's kind of where we're gonna be not spinning our tires, but we're gonna be making progress in this type of discourse, and we're gonna lose everyone else. And I think you and I both know that, right? What if I grant fine-tuning? What if I grant that as evidence toward theism, just to keep this conversation moving, right? And just to be clear, I don't, and for reasons we're talking about. But if I did grant it, how do we get to Christian theism being true over any other theism? Do you have like a supplementary second stage argument where we can talk about maybe what it would require, what would it mean for Christianity to be true as opposed to perhaps deism or some other type of theism that entails fine tuning?
Yeah. Well, we can look at the Christian theistic hypothesis in specific. There's further commitments that need to be added, and then also we can kind of do a comparative analysis, like in light of the fact that we have this evidence for bare theism. We can do this kind of comparative analysis where we look at the historical side and see whether or not it coheres with the fine-tuning claim.
So yeah, let's maybe discuss that. So we have two or potentially more hypotheses on the table that account for the fine-tuning data. For the purposes of keeping everyone else engaged in this conversation and keeping this moving along, now the task is to show why theism is a better hypothesis compared to that of, I don't know, let's say, bare theism, right? That Christian theism is true.
Well, it seems almost trivial that it's a better hypothesis because it kind of coheres more. Like the fine-tuning claim, and if we had the axiological motivation stuff get off the ground, it seems like
if
that's
I was
going to cohere more with be more in line with these type of religions where they posit that God is motivated to bring about value.
Well, no,
Right?
I mean,
So
what's the
even
okay?
that-
Let's pretend I'm a deist. Why should I believe that Yahweh specifically is the God that exists and that Jesus is the Christ and the Son of God?
Yeah, so the argument we're using is we want to say, well, look, in light of the fact that we have this God that's motivated to bring about value, which I think that's a plausible entailment in and of itself from a God existing, we can kind of talk about that. But that was kind of the way that I was motivated.
How does that one get you to Yahweh specifically?
It seems like it's trivially more privileged. Like Christian theism is trivially more privileged than something like deism.
Why?
Just because of the fact that the axiological motivation stuff and the fine-tuning claim seem to be more expected under Christian theism than deism.
Wait. Why would it be? Why not? Why can't you have a form of theism where you have a belief in a God who's very personal and wants to bring about these wonderful things, but it's just not Yahweh? What gets me to believe it's Yahweh?
Then we look at the historical analyses.
Okay.
We can look at things like the
Let's do
miracle.
that. Let's dive into that, right?
Yeah, we can look at one. I think the resurrection of Jesus is kind of something that I think would lend evidence towards Christian theism.
All right, what do you think is
there's
the
also
best?
other things
What
like
do you think is
miracle.
what do you think is the best evidence for the resurrection? Because I think Jesus is dead.
Yeah, the best evidence is just a widespread historical convergence. Whereas we see a kind of like a divergence on the contrary view of historical accounts where they say that.
How broad or how wide a claim is spread dictates truth?
That's not what's being said either. We're saying it's evidence insofar as it's expected.
It's
how is that expected?
I would expect it if Christianity wasn't true for it to also spread.
The reason why it's more expected under the concepts being successful or these things having some type of perceptual merit is just because it seems like if we use the merging of opinion result, or
But
we
there-
use these
there
type
are
of
more-
things like,
There are
the
more
argument-
Muslims than Christians.
I'm specifically talking about the historicity. It seems like
Okay, but if we're talking about widespread being a novel, like a type of prediction, then I would hedge my bet on Islam.
I'm talking about the widespread historicity.
If we're talking about why Christianity spread in the first place, I mean, Judaism was already gaining traction with non-Jews in the first century. That's why we had God-fears. And then a specific form of Judaism arises that says, hey, you can be a full-fledged member of the community without having to eat without having to abstain from unclean meats, and without having to chop off the tip of your dick. And of course, that version of Christianity would become even more popular. And then if a monarch like Constantine accepts Christianity because his mom was Christian, then of course you would expect Christianity to spread. It doesn't tell me the spread of Christianity doesn't tell me anything about whether or not Christianity is true.
You're not responding to the claim on the table, which is that it's evidence. We're at a very specific point right now where we're just saying, is this more expected if it's the case that Jesus resurrected?
No.
Or is it the case that it's more expected?
Is this okay? So is it a Bayesian type of inference you're referring to when you say it's more expected?
Yeah, just like a standard Bayesian inference. But also,
are you familiar with James Fodor's RHBS model, which accounts for example, all the minimal facts without invoking anything supernatural?
No, I'm not familiar with that model. We can talk about if it's more expected under the one I have than yours. If you have it, we can talk about that.
Sure. Yeah. So, so when we talk about the evidences in support of the resurrection, what type of evidences are you pointing to?
Yeah, we're looking at the historical accounts, the kind of undesigned coincidences in the Gospels. We're also looking at other historical accounts where
do we also take into account that the like claims in the Gospels that seem to contradict each other?
I don't think any of them do.
Really?
What?
Yeah, we can talk about that.
Have you? How aware are you of the nativity stories of Jesus?
I'm pretty aware, but if you have any verses that you think contradict each other, we can discuss those.
Yes, that's exactly what we're about to do. Do you agree with the Gospel of Matthew when it says that Jesus was born during the reign of King Herod the Great?
Yeah.
All right. When did Herod die?
I don't know.
4 BCE. Do you agree with the Gospel of Luke?
Where are you getting that 4 BCE thing from?
Yeah, this is the consensus view amongst historians that Herod lived from approximately 72.
Is there a source on that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I can pull up a source if you'd like.
But even then, it seems like that's not even an issue internal.
Well,
to the gospel.
we'll get to why it's a problem in a second.
No, it's not a problem.
We're about to. You don't even know why it's a problem yet. You'll get to see why it's. You'll get to see why it's a problem. You'll get to see why it's a. You'll get to see why it's a contradiction in the gospel in a second if you just chill out. So Herod dies between 4 to 1 BCE. Do you agree with the Gospel of Luke when it says that Jesus was born during the census of Quirinius? Okay, it doesn't matter when Herod dies. That doesn't matter. Like you can make it. You will see why. Jesus fucking Christ. Do you agree with the God? I'm just going to ask my question. I don't care. Do you agree with the Gospel of Luke when it says that Quirinius was the governor of Syria when Jesus was born, and that there was a census over the people?
Yeah, if the Gospel makes the claim, I can agree with it.
Okay,
that's fine. But the point is just that
did the census take place while Herod was alive?
I don't appreciate you doing this thing where you
did the census occur while Herod was alive?
Yeah, I'm agnostic on that. But the point here
okay, so I got a source here. It's called Antiquities of the Jews. Wow. Okay.
I don't appreciate.
Watch
Cap.
that. Look at that.
I don't appreciate that.
We're trying to talk about your holy text.
I don't appreciate being overtalked.
Okay. Stop.
Can you
what?
That?
Stop. I'm going to bring my point. I'm not done bringing my point out. You can talk when I'm done bringing out my point.
We let you have this. We let you have this entire dialogue with Styx. We gave you the stage floor.
You're not even letting me.
Yes, okay, now we're not, because you keep interrupting Dalton, and you keep interrupting. Give a second and let him bring his claim. Let him bring his evidence to fruition.
See, this is the problem with Christian Philbros is that as soon as they do not like talking about shut up. I will drop. You will either let me, the Bible guy, talk on the Bible Guy show, or I will drop you, and then we can just tell the audience. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll give you I'll let you get it out, sir.
There you go. You don't let me do anything on my own show, just so we're clear. So, Jesus is born during the reign of King Herod the Great, according to the Gospel of Matthew. According to the Gospel of Luke, he's born during the census of Quirinius. According to external historical documentation, such as the works of Flavius Josephus and his work Antiquities of the Jews, books 17 and 18. The reason, do you know why Quirinius became governor of Syria? It's because Archelaus was deposed of his position as the ruler of Judea, and the only reason Archelaus was the ruler of Judea was because Herod the Great had died. It is a chronological impossibility for one to be born during the reign of King Herod the Great, but also to be born during the census of Quirinius, as the only reason that the census in Quirinius took place was because of Herod's death.
Yeah, we can talk. So I just want to flag that I let you speak for about two
My God.
consecutive minutes. So I would appreciate you not.
You
interrupting me.
didn't let me
To be
do
very
anything.
clear, when you made
You
the
did.
claim that the gospel, I did let you. By the
You
way,
did
I
not.
should have
Okay.
talked to you.
That's it.
But to be clear, and I understood.
Why do we have to do this? Like, Cap, you were having a great conversation with Styx on a philosophical level, but it does lend the appearance that every time Philbros come up, or maybe you're philosophically confident and you don't fit in the category of Philbro. I'll be genuine in that. I don't know. But you fail to let the conversation go, and then you can't seemingly allow a conversation and then throw a fit. Like, that was very apparent what was happening. I know there are some people in the comment section that might agree with you because they agree with your point already. But when it comes down to it, we were trying to have a dialogue with you.